The old steak flip. Well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. And today what we're going to do is going to go over all the steps and the different tools that you need to really make a great steak. One of the questions I've been getting quite a bit, because people are starting to use these carbon steel pans, is how exactly do I clean this thing and how do I season it? These things will last you a lifetime, but they require a small amount of care, and it's not really hard. It's not really hard. So I'm going to go over how to do that. We're going to talk about the sous vide temperatures. How long should you sear a steak? How hot? All the little nuances, and see if we can't cook ourselves the best ribeye that I've ever had. But we're going to start. There it is. Not bad. We're going to start by dry brining this steak. Now, basically what that means is you salt it on both sides and the edges. You put it up on some kind of a rack. It can be one of those cookie sheet type racks. This is a silicone rack that I got, and what it does is it lets the air get under it and circulate. Because we're going to put it salted in the refrigerator. We're going to leave it for an hour or two, 3. You can dry brine as long as you want, but there's a number of videos out there on YouTube that talk about, what's the best amount of time to dry brine a steak. And the consensus seems to be minimum of an hour, maybe 2. But most people leaving it overnight don't see any difference. Some people like to leave it in longer. I guess that's just a matter of personal taste. The old steak flip. We're going to put what I like to, for me anyway, is the right amount of salt. And I've done this just from doing it over and over. We're going to take this, we're going to stick it in the refrigerator, and that's all there is to it. Well, I just made a short trip to Sam's Club, ran out of eggs, and I did manage to find this, which was marked down, 28 bucks, that's 14 bucks a piece, is 3.12 pounds. They call these T-bones, but this one is a T-bone because this is the New York strip. This is the filet mignon part. But on this one, you've got a huge piece of filet mignon and a beautiful New York strip. And to get 2 of these steaks for 14 bucks a piece, I thought was kind of a treat for myself. So we'll vacuum seal these and put them away. Also managed to get 10 pounds of 80/20 ground chuck and some eggs. So what we're going to do right now is going to talk about the care and feeding of a carbon steel pan. Now this pan really doesn't need to be reseasoned now. It's perfect, and it's got a very, very light coating of probably the butter that I last cooked in, because I don't always wash this pan out. I just wipe it out real good. But occasionally some stuff sticks to the bottom, and it will as the pan starts to season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I use, but I'm not going to actually wash it out with water. You don't want to scrub these things with anything too harsh that's going to scratch them up. And what they sell are these chainmail scrubbies. I guess I'll have to put a link to an Amazon link to them, although I haven't done that yet. These things, you don't press real hard. You just put them in there and you just rub them around like this and a little water, and they will take off anything that might be burned off without actually scratching down through the seasoning, which is a polymerized layer of oil. So we're just going to assume that I got it washed out now, and I've washed it. I don't ever use soap in this thing, but I've washed it out, and now I want to re-season it. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I put it on high. Turn on your exhaust fan. Now, there's a big controversy about what kind of oils or fats to use to season these things. And there's, I think, a great misunderstanding about the fact that I think that a vegetable oil is better for seasoning than an animal fat. It polymerizes easier. And I get chastised when I talk about seasoning with grapeseed oil, but I've tried a lot of different oils and I've tried a lot of different animal fats, and for some reason grapeseed oil is the one to use. So there's not going to be enough grapeseed oil in that pan to mean anything. And this stuff is bad for you. And over a period of 20, 30 years of exposing yourself to these oils, yeah, they'll make you sick. But a couple of molecules of this coming off on your food for the first time, compared to the 55-gallon drums worth of this stuff that you've consumed in your lifetime up to now, is absurd to worry about or be concerned. And I think too many people, especially us carnivores, make ourselves crazy worrying about exposure to a gram of sugar or a gram of seed oils or something like that. I think that that's taking it to an obsessive compulsive extreme. So we've got this on high, we've got it heating up. These digital thermometers come in real handy. This is approaching 300 degrees. What I'm going to do, and I have a dedicated rag that I use here, is I'm just going to squirt about that much rapeseed oil in here, and I'm going to take this rag and I'm going to coat the whole bottom and sides of this pan. And I'm going to wait and make sure it's smoking. And it is starting to smoke now. So as soon as it starts to smoke, I'll give it a minute, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. I'll shut the heat off, but I will leave the pan set on the hot burner and the hot stove so it doesn't cool down too rapidly. And it may take 15 or 20 minutes for that to cool off, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let it cool off. The temperature of this thing right now is 444, 43, 55. That's about fine. And that will polymerize that grapeseed oil. And it creates a coating that makes it non-stick. Now, you also, on a brand new pan, you want to do this cycle 3 or 4 times. So you season it, you wipe it out, turn on the stove, put it down, another layer of oil in there, let it cool down, and do that 3 or 4 times and you should be good. This pan has been fabulous for me, and without a doubt, anybody that uses them will tell you it's the best way to sear meat. I'm going to include a sous vide temperature chart. I've had a lot of questions about that in this video so you can see. But I like my steaks medium rare. Medium rare is 130 degrees. So I will hit the temperature button and make sure that it's set to 130 degrees. I will hit the time button, hold down the plus key till it's 2 hours. I will hit the start, and that starts up the machine, and it will not start the countdown timer until this temperature gets up to 130 degrees in here. I use these silicone bags. Now, while they're not vacuum sealed, when you put a steak in here and push it down under the water, all of the air will come out, and for all intents and purposes, that steak will be in a vacuum as long as the top end of this bag is sticking out of the water and the water itself covers the steak. So let's go get our steak that we've been dry brining in here. And you can see, if you look closely, that it's gotten a little darker. It's changed color, and any moisture that was on the steak has pretty much disappeared, because that's what brining does, and that's what salting it does. So we will take this steak and stick it in this bag. And you want, this has a rack in it which will hold it down, but you want to make sure it doesn't float up. You want to make sure that the open end is out of the water. No, not floating, and we just close it, and I'm just going to leave that like that. And that's all I need to do. So I've seasoned my pan, I've brined my steak, it's in the sous vide. Sous vide is set for 2 hours. That'll be about 20 minutes to 11. We'll come back then, and we'll sear this thing off and have breakfast, lunch, whatever you want to call it. All right, time's up on the sous vide machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this thing on high, because we want to get a good sear, which means that I need a hot pan. Shooting for like 500 degrees or more. And I'm going to sear this off in butter like I usually do. But you can use bacon grease, tallow, any animal fats will do. You could even probably use coconut oil, but I don't know why anybody'd want to do that. And we're going to let that pan come up to temperature. Now, our steak is at 130 degrees, cooked through, but no more than 130 degrees. So we'll take it out. And you can't really overcook it. So an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, you're probably okay. And you probably won't notice the difference. I imagine it would get, the longer you leave it in, a little more tender, but I think that if you leave it in too long, I think you really tear too much of the meat fiber down. But what we have here is a steak that doesn't look real appetizing. It kind of looks like a gray piece of meat, which is how steaks look after they come out of the sous vide. You're not going to find red. Now, if you cut it open, you'd find it was perfectly medium rare all the way through, but you want to dry it off, because water and searing don't go together. All right, so this butter is melting, and we'll check the temperature. Right now it's about 360, so I'm going to let it come up just a little bit longer. But you do want to blot it off. It's been salted, so you don't need to season it anymore. And what we're going to do, while the pan is really finishing coming up to temperature, we're going to bring the camera over to here where we can see this a little better. And I'm going to sear the outside edges of the steak. To turn the exhaust fan on, or I probably set off all my smoke alarms. So I'm going to sear the outside edge of the steak. And this doesn't take real long, so I'm just going to let it run in real time. Maybe 30 seconds on each side while you're doing this. And we're at 550, 500 degrees. That is perfect. So we'll just get this a little bit. And we're going to put it down in here. And we're going to sear this puppy. I'll let it sit in there for about a minute. Looking for over 500 degrees, and we got it. That's about 30 seconds. Now you don't have to you don't have to completely sear it, because you can flip it over a couple times. If it doesn't sear quite enough on one side, you go back and sear it a little more on that side until you get the crunch and the texture that you really want. So we're coming up on a minute on this side here, and we'll flip it over and let's see how good a minute was. Now, that's not bad looking. So now we're going to let it go for a minute on that side too. In the meantime, I'm going to show you a very special knife that I've had for many years. It's a handmade, one-of-a-kind, custom Japanese chef's knife. And this string is made, as you see these chefs, they wear it with the sheath there so they can always get it. And the knife is pretty loose in the sheath so you can pull it out. It's a wooden sheath, and it's a Damascus blade that is made out of multi-layered steel. And these are some of the sharpest knives on the planet Earth. They're right up there with the samurai swords. They will hurt you. And I have never used this to eat a steak, but I thought for this video it would be kind of neat. All right, let's see how the other side of this looks. I think that's done. So we're going to shut the heat off. We're going to take that steak. We're going to put it on the cutting board. Get the pan off the heat. Now, most of the time, I put the steak in this dish right here because it's deep, and I pour the butter over it. But for right now, I just want to show you how this thing is going to look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice it open, and let's take a look at how this came out. So let's slice it right through the middle here, and there you go. So you can see that searing it, put a little more than 1/8 of an inch of the gray around it, and the center is perfectly medium rare. So we're going to go ahead and slice this up. God, that looks good. Well, this knife cuts through this like it was made out of butter. So there you go. There is my ribeye. You saw it from start to finish. Brined, sous vide. And I'm going to take this over here to the table. And I'm going to start eating it. And you can see whether I think it's any good or not. Mmm. Mmm. That's wonderful. Yes, sir. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going to finish this, and it's great. So you guys, I hope that this taught you a little something. And now that you're filled with all that knowledge, I'll give you the rest of the day off so that you too can eat some meat.